Callum, I've decided that I am tired of games that are just trying to be metaphors about the modern world. I've just decided that there's too many of them. They're all over the place. It just doesn't. It's just not.
You don't like artistic intent in video games, is what you're saying.
It's just more like, you know what? Like, the world sucks. I don't need more things that are gonna
The world does suck.
communicate about how the
You're
world
right.
sucks. So today we're gonna play Citizen Sleeper, which is a game about how
The future also sucks. Is that
it's
not
about
what
how
this is about?
it's about technically how the corporations own your body, and that your ability to generate a wage is directly related to your worthiness as a citizen, which has nothing to do with anything that's happening right now, and is definitely not pertinent. This is Citizen Sleeper. This is the game. I'm just going to start this going while we talk. Oh, actually, okay. We'll do this first. So this is a RPG, kind of. It's somewhere between like a visual novel and RPG, in that it has stat systems and shares a lot of stuff with kind of modern tabletop mechanics, but is very much about that kind of visual novel storytelling style stuff. So we're gonna we've got a couple of classes to start with. So we've got, and as I have not finished this game, and also I've only have one playthrough, so I've never seen it within our character. I imagine that based on the description of the characters, there's going to be some pretty radically different narrative that happened with them. So this might be more valuable than just stats. Basically, you have stats. You have +1 and -1 on a stat per class, and when we get into the game, you'll see how they affect stuff. I'm going to go operator because that's what I went with the first time, and I know how that goes.
Sure.
And also, this is the very start of the game, so I'm not going to spoil anything huge. This is, as far as I can tell, the game kind of starts the same for everyone and then starts to diverge later. So this is the new game from Jump Over the Age, which is like a very small developer, possibly only one person, not entirely sure. But the previous game was In Other Waters, which was a cool kind of abstracted underwater exploration game. Yeah, so it's got this kind of visual novel style, kind of like dialogue and choice stuff. The writing generally in this game is super cool. I'm going to skip through some of this just because to get to the mechanical stuff. But the writing is really good. Like it's got a really good. It really does kind of internalize the struggle that the main character has. So I'm skipping through this, but I'll basically give you the setup. The setup is that you are a sleeper, and a sleeper is a person who has, I assume from Earth, but I don't think that's ever explicitly said, but from Earth, has sold their consciousness to a corporation who has then cloned your consciousness into mechanized bodies. So so theoretically there is a real person, or the original person is still somewhere else, but you are a mechanized body with that a direct copy of that person's consciousness. It kind of evokes a lot of the points that Soma hits on.
I was gonna say it sounds very Soma.
Yeah,
that was
the kind of middle
kind of
end
the point
of
of that game towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the Eye. This is the space station that you basically stowed away on a ship, and have ended up on the station called the Eye, which is a toroid station. So a donut.
Is that EYE or just I?
EYE, yes.
Okay.
And this is kind of how the game flows. So we have these icons throughout the station. The diamond ones are kind of like story progression ones. So let's go talk to Dragos. I love the artwork in this. It's just the amount of detail and kind of like character and all the different people.
Again, it's very reminiscent of some sort of like weird D6 based tabletop game.
Yeah, it's got that. It's got that aesthetic to it. So I've been in cryostasis to I basically shut down the body to escape. So that's the other part of it. So yes, you're a sleeper that's got this copied consciousness, but the corporation owns your body and the consciousness because it's been sold to them, right? And eventually as a sleeper, you've just gone, fuck this shit, and ran away with the body, which is technically corporate property. So the corporation obviously not happy about it, and you're not exactly in the.
So you're saying that you sell the consciousness. Does that mean that there's a bunch of bodies that just have the same consciousness? So it's like the same person in multiple bodies?
Unclear.
Okay.
You know that you are. You know that you're a copy of someone. You don't know how many other copies. I don't think that hasn't come up yet. Like person. I said, that bit hasn't been. I've not finished the game, so that should be clear. But that hasn't come up so far in in the story, which is kind of what I like about it. I'll talk about that in a second. So you've got a straight up character sheet, like with upgrades and various things. We have an inventory of items, which is cryo's your currency.
Oh, I thought that said crypto for a second.
It does say crypto. It's a cryptocurrency called cryo.
Oh, it's a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's a cryptocurrency, yeah. And data as well, which is something I'll hopefully get onto before the end of this. But yeah, so you have home. All of the... Do we have a... Oh, we don't have the bar yet. Okay. But we'll end a cycle. So the game works in cycles. Like, kind of not unspecified amount of time cycles, but the equivalent of like a day. But one of the things I really like about the way they're doing, the way the writing goes in this is they very much focus on... It kind of... not so much sidesteps, but it goes further than where a lot of transhumanism narrative does, where it's like... Are you really human? Like the real easy one. Like it goes a step further of being like, okay, how do you make your life? How do you survive? Who are you as an identity, as a clone of somebody that already exists, right? With memories of which are not your own. Again, kind of Soma starts to pick up some of these threads as well, but they do a really good job in this game of.
Well, that's Blade Runner, right? Like that's the
kind of
the point of Blade Runner.
Well, except Blade Runner's entirely synthetic. They don't have. Oh, well, they have implanted memories, which is subtly
different. They get implanted memories. That's the whole Voight-Comp thing. Like,
yeah, but it's not like this is a direct copy of someone, right?
Yeah, this is so different, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Dragos is the guy that kind of thaws you out and puts you in gives you this kind of container space to call home for now, and say, look, I could do with some. I've got some work. You're going to need currency to be able to survive here. I've got some work that you can do. Do you want to work in a shipyard? And the shipyard, yeah, so this is the kind of, there's a lot of text here, but this is possibly the only bit I'm not a huge fan of the game, is that like a lot of the mechanics are like a lot of mechanics come in within the first like 10-15 minutes, but it's like this screen and there's a lot of text.
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
I understand a lot of it because of like I've done tabletop stuff before, but there's a lot of stuff that if you go into this, it kind of seems a bit weird. Like there's a lot of things happening on the screen, right? But I can kind of very quickly...
Does this game have clocks? Oh god,
yes,
it does have
the game
clocks.
has clocks.
Jesus Christ.
So the interactions are kind of these kind of screens. So every location has like, that's a circle, has its own interactions. So you have you have actions which can be either, I think they're critical actions or repeatable actions. Repeatable actions obviously are repeatable. Critical are one-shots that usually are tied to story progress. So for instance here, one of the things I can do is hull dissection. So it says basically what it is, what you're doing, and this is his job, right? He runs a shipyard, so he breaks apart ships.
Yeah.
So extract them means cutting carefully, skillfully, and then you've got manual salvage, where you're cutting your way through salvage, but it's more hard labor. And you see they've got these icons on them, which directly tie to your stats.
Yeah.
Like this is the engineer stat, this is the endure stat, and you can see because I have a -1 in endure. Well, okay. Let's get to the actual mechanic. So the mechanic here is you have a slot for dice. These are your dice. You get re-rolled dice every cycle. 1 to 6, as you would expect. You take a dice, you put a dice in a slot. Oops. And
that's a 5, isn't it?
That's a 5. And depending on which dice you put in, depends on what your result's going to be. So with a 5, that will give me a 50% chance of a positive result and a 50% chance of a neutral result. Neutral results are not exactly bad, and neither actually are negative results, but negative results may have impacts on your well-being, your
This is the same system as a bunch of these tabletop systems that use D6s, where it's like, within a certain number range, it's like something happens, but you don't get to pick what it is, or you only get to pick one of 4, or whatever it is.
And I think part of it as well is this other tag they've got under it, which is like risky or safe. So risky has a chance, like, risky tasks have more of a chance of actually affecting your health, or your different types of health, or your credits even. Whereas safe ones, like you'll just waste a dice basically. So we'll put a 5 in this for hull dissection, and we'll start the action. Hey, so I got, oops, yep, thank you. So I got 15 cryo and this back in business. Back in business is this clock, so you can see they're tied to these clocks. When these clocks fill, something will happen, basically.
Yeah.
So these ones, the yellow ones are usually just like story progression clocks of some kind. The ones red are repeating clocks, but also that's usually a negative thing when they come round. So for instance, Dragos has got a debt that's going to get called in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chits. So if that fills up, that's a problem. So you can see that, like, and that will probably fill like per cycle.
Also has a giant negative in the middle of the clock.
Also, the giant negative usually does affect that. But yeah, so, and that's kind of the mechanical system of the game. The other part is, so if you've got a negative 1 or a negative in your stat, it basically knocks one number off a dice. So this 5 becomes a 4.
5 becomes a 4.
Which then has your thing. And it's really good at showing you, like, hey, here's why this is happening. I don't think you can do it with a, oh yeah, a 1 just becomes, stays a 1. So you get that. So we'll just kind of, I don't think there's much else I can do right now. Oh, and then the other part of this as well is, is drives, which are basically your objectives, right? These are your story tracking. So one of the things that you are as a synthetic body with a real consciousness, your consciousness is permanently rejecting your body like a transplant, right? And you need drugs to be able to keep all that in check. Again, neuropathy from Deus Ex, that kind of stuff. So you need to find a doctor, and hey, there's a doctor. What, is that the doctor? It's a doc. Oh, so a lot more stuff has opened up here, so you can see there's more places to go, and we'll explore some of that in a second. But your drives are basically like, okay, so one of your drives now is to help pay off Dragos' debt, and if you toggle the tracking, it will show you these yellow dots that show these are the things that will help you do that stuff, and also just survive. Also a really handy one. Just some other couple of things. The bar at the top here, obviously you've got your dice. You have the bottom, which is your, I think they just call it, I don't think they call it health, but they call it something else. But that's basically your physical health, right? You get damaged, this goes down. I don't know at this point what happens when it hits 0. Like, is that a viable option? Like, is it just
I
game
assume
over?
That's nothing good. I assume
nothing
not
good,
a good
but whether it's directly game over, can't tell you. And then this one at the top, which is your status, which is how much you're, how in sync your mind and body basically is, your consciousness and your mechanical body. So here I'm flickering, which means like there's a little bit of problems, but this is directly related to how many dice you have. So the moment that crosses into the 3 dice, you will only get 3 dice per cycle. And then you get 2, and then you get 1.
Right,
and then, again, I don't know what happens when this hits 0, but currently because I'm here, I'm only getting 4 dice rather than 5. As you can expect, the drugs are pretty expensive, so it's probably I'm trying to see, where is it, this one? So yeah, so as the game goes on, like, stuff opens up in the station. So you've got, like, for here, the old dock terminal obviously has a bunch of stuff where, like, hey, like, there's some plans for the dock that might be useful to get, so you can put some danger in there and try and get that out. But you can only really try that 3 times before the dock starts locking down.
Like, what's the benefit of doing that? Because this is just a bunch of side stuff with no context.
Well,
like,
it's so directly here is, I mean, basically saying here, Havanage, which is one of the corps that run the station, they have plans of the station. So if you want to figure out where a doctor would be, for instance, or find out where useful parts of the station would be, just straight up stealing the plans would be a really good way to do that.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Like, it does have some context. And then there's just straight up, like, explorer, right? There is a couple of docks, these wet docks. These will have ships that will come in and out. So you can see there's a new ship coming in like 4 cycles. Here there's one coming in a little bit. From there you can, like, buy more, buy various things that are required for you to continue to survive. There's the bright market, which is like your market, so you can ask for directions and kind of get some more information about the place, just walk around. Again, local knowledge, once that taps out, you start to get things in the market, like you can start betting on stuff. And then this one with the arrow is basically parts of the station are kind of basically locked off behind various narrative reasons. So for here, like, the gate at the start of Low End, the Atagan, who are a kind of a quote-unquote militia group basically in here, kind of enforce the gate there. So, like, yeah, you can pay a toll and get in.
You need to make money to...
You need to pass, but that's 60 cryo and all this kind of stuff. And then down here somewhere, yeah, there's the shipyard, the Havanage shipyard, which again lets you do various things. So we're going to finish one day, because I think at the end of the first day is the final little mechanical bit. So let's go and, for instance, let's go and try and steal some dock plans, maybe. See how that goes. Cool. Oh, did I get it? Yep.
Yeah, it looks like you filled the clock. So.
Yep, so I filled the clock, but also I've got the plans, which is easy enough. So now that's opened up the bar, for instance, in here, and another sealed dock, which is you'll want to do this. Just saying, this is a good thing that you'll want to do. And then you can start talking to other people. So because there's a diamond, this starts a whole other story section, and does all this stuff. And Kita is a cool little story stuff. But like the organization of the game is basically like you've got these drives, which you can decide to do or not, which ones you want to prioritize. Obviously, they're going to conflict with each other, they're going to override each other, all the stuff you would kind of expect. But it is very much a game of like, here's a bunch of story stuff that you can do whatever you want of while prioritizing your own survival. So let's burn these last two. Let's go and...
Is the day over when you run out of dice?
Well, the day can be over whenever, but yeah, like generally you want to use all your dice.
Sure.
So there I had a negative outcome, which just means I lost some energy. So that's that.
You got lost exploring the market.
Yeah, I get, yeah. And is there anything else that's safe that I can just burn this on? No, this is all... You need money to buy drinks, as it turns out. So I'll just go and sleep this cycle, end the cycle. So ending the cycle will... There's no, like... That doesn't recover anything, that just costs you more.
Sure, yeah.
So like now I'm starving, right? Because I haven't eaten yet. So yeah, this is the final mechanical bit. So one of the things that, because you're an entirely mechanical body, you have a connection to the station that other normal humans don't have, right? You're entirely mechanical. So you basically get this other view. Oh, you don't get it right now? Crap. Okay. But you will eventually get it. But basically you have what they call the data layer of the eye, which is basically you start to see all the networks and data that get transferred around. The thing about the data layer is that it prioritizes low dice. So like it's a lot of 1s and 2s to get stuff done in the data layer. So there's always this thing about like it wants you to use all your dice, and splitting your time evenly between the two layers is a good way to get
that makes sense
out of the stuff. It's one of the things
because otherwise it's an entire system where your low dice just always give you negative traits, and then that's
exactly
bad.
And it's completely random as well. Like these are dice being rolled, right?
Dice rolls,
so yeah,
it's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, especially because I think I talked about the podcast. Was the game that's kind of similar to this called Tharsis from a number of years ago. That game was designed to be a roguelike and designed to be punishing. So if you got a bunch of bad rolls, you were just kind of fucked for a little bit. It was a mechanism to add tension, as opposed to a mechanism to let you explore a story, which Citizen Sleeper is very much trying to do. Like, it wants you to see a bunch of stuff. It doesn't seem like it's punishing, but it does have that enough of a level of you're like, oh shit, there's a thing I really need to do for a friend that I've made, but also I need to make some credit so I can eat this cycle or I'm going to starve. Like, it's the entire game is that kind of tension, pulling itself pulling you in different directions and really making you focus and stuff. That's kind of all I want to show, because from here on in it's a lot of story and a lot of really interesting stuff. It's super cool. So it's out on Citizen Sleeper is out on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can just download it and check it out. It's on Steam for £15. It's also on Mac and Linux, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that was the thing. It's not on console or Switch or anything right now, but there's no reason why it couldn't.
It seems like it would be a good Switch game, to be honest.
Totally. Yeah.
I'll play this on Switch.
Yeah, but like I say, it's on Game Pass, so there's no harm in you just checking it out. Maybe go, like,
of course.
You'll know, maybe stick another 15-20 minutes into it from where I am right now, and you'll know pretty quick whether it's a thing you want to continue with. But I really like where it's going, and like I say, I'm much further on in here, and the writing really does surprise me, where like a lot of it ties that really good line between like being not super grimdark while also really digging into like some of the frailties of a system like this, and a worldview like this. It's very cool. So yeah, this is Citizen Sleeper. It's out now. Go check it out. Thanks, Cal.
Thanks, you.